Welcome, everybody, to this special edition in the Zealous Den tonight. I have Garrett from Father's Lion Studio and Mr. Browse from I Miss Christendom. They've been here before, great channels. They are actually linked in the description below, so do go check them out. And I actually wanted to start with your channels because a couple of episodes that I saw from you guys, Garrett's He-Man, you had mentioned how you were just drawn to the old school true masculinity. And Mr. Browse has just been going on about the state of Christendom and how we miss it. So talking about promoting the TLM tonight and the unwritten rules of the men's code book. Hopefully you guys are aware, but if not, we're going to remind you of all that. But the I Miss Christendom and TLM, and we're actually going to get a little bit of Eastern Catholic rite from Garret, who's been experiencing that. But the main summary is there's an extra step that you can take in your faith instead of just being stagnant and humdrum. You need to search, because the church, the universal church, we have all the fullness of the truth. And if you want to truly unveil the mysteries of the faith, you need to find reverent, God-fearing priests and bishops who can unlock the mysteries for us. So welcome, everybody. And I guess we could start by talking about, from my understanding, the traditional Latin Mass has poor marketing. So mostly whenever I see people, we had talked about, there's usually a war between radical traditionalists and Novus Ordo. You shouldn't go to that, and you need to, and the Novus Ordos dig their heels in. But I want to reach a middle gap and say, because most of the Catholics go to Novus Ordo, the high percentage of them. And so I wanted to kind of tell you guys that everyone should go. People like Mr. Browse, people like Garrett, people like me, all shades and colors, no matter where you are in your faith. We need to get to the TLM or Byzantine rite, which I'm interested in. But I want to express to you the reverence and the beauty, and just we go to Mass to receive the mysteries of faith. So to unveil these mysteries, it's the most magnificent traditional thing. So we will start by talking about the marketing. Steve or Garrett, what's your ideas on the TLM and the marketing, as in the laymen who try to promote it? They seem to be kind of cookie cutter LDS looking people, but everyone and their mother should be at the church, not just the nice looking.
Yeah, and I remember one time I was standing outside of a chapel, the chapel, I can't remember exactly. Maybe I went out to my car or something, and then some woman kind of was coming up, and she had just regular, like what you would wear to the Novus Ordo, right? And her son and everyone, she kind of looks at everyone in there, and of course, we're all wearing suits and ties and everything, and she just turns around, and I thought, I need to just go let her know that, it's okay. You didn't know. Experiencing this is what you need to do, because in my opinion, if you were to go to a Latin Mass, and I'm assuming, and I'm sure it would be the same with the Eastern Rite as well, if you go 5 or 6 times and then try to go back to the Novus Ordo, you're going to be like, why did we ever do this? Why did we even do this? Well, just because it was so much more reverence.
If I may, Steve, that literally happened to me and my sister quite recently. We just started to attend a 2-form rite, and then after a month or so of going to beautiful TLM, we brought my mother to a Novus Ordo, the one we used to attend, and it'll drive you crazy, as you said, just the stuff you see. We get there, and it looked like a jungle gym was going on at the altar. There was mothers with their children up there. And after being at the TLM, when the altar is actually cut off from the layman, it's a beautiful thing. So as Steve said, what I realized is if you're a well-versed Novus Ordo Catholic, you can get kind of pharisaical in they're not dressing appropriately, they're not reverent enough, or they're not doing this, and that's not good for your own soul. But what I found when I went to the TLM, I felt like a child with open eyes. I realized there was more I had to learn. And if I may, you guys might like this joke. I told it to my sister. The number one reason that I hear why Catholics don't attend the TLM is they say they don't understand the Latin. So I joked with my sister, if someone if their reason for not going to TLM is they don't understand the Latin, I would argue that they don't understand the English. Because if they were understanding the English in the Bible, they would be seeking an Eastern Rite, a TLM. God transforms us. So if you're not too different from sitting in the pew on Sunday as you are at a cookout on Saturday, then maybe you got to try to find that transformation. For example, you guys have known me. I'm Mr. Sweater and laid back, but after attending I used to think I was dressing fancy for a Novus Ordo, for example. So I wear my best Novus Ordo gear to the TLM. And when I left that mass, I said, I got to go shopping.
Yeah, same here. Yeah.
But in a good way. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it actually, it does. It makes you feel a little bit better. I've noticed people treat you better. They look, they see more dignity, if you will.
Right.
So Garret was saying before, his son asked, like, Dad, does Jesus matter what you wear to church? So it kind of, what he told his son, what Steve was saying, you show up how you are. But if you're remaining that, then maybe your heart's not softening or the gospel's not speaking to you. But we should always be trying to raise that bar. And I feel like, and
I think that's part of the, going back to that initial question of like the marketing problem for the TLM. I think part of it is this feeling that super pro TLM Catholics have of like, when you come in, you had better come in right. You better dress right. You better say the things. You better know the change, and all that. And it comes across it feels like a large jump from Novus Ordo to the TLM. And I think more than anything, like when I invite people to a TLM or to a divine liturgy in the Eastern Catholic Rite, my first advice is always show up how you are and don't do anything.
Yeah.
Just sit there. And if you happen to do the up downs and all the things, cool. But just participate by not participating.
Don't try to go along with the book.
That just be there. Just be there and let the Mass, your participation is presence. Just watch. Just observe. Just let it affect you. Don't try to affect it. And I think that's one of the things that is semi-problematic from the current way in which we do liturgy, is it feels like you have to participate. You have to do all of these things. And when you take that into the Latin Mass, it can be daunting because now you don't know the language. You don't know what they're saying. You don't know which thing and when to kneel and when to not kneel. And a lot of times it's just better for the soul to show up and let God do the work and don't do anything. Just sit there. And I really think when people do that, it takes a couple of times and you're like, okay, where's the book? I want to at least know what that part is.
Yeah. And it doesn't take long to realize, especially if you grew up in the Novus Ordo or if you've gone there for decades, it doesn't take long to realize, even though there are some substantial changes other than just the language, but the basic form is the same.
Right.
You after you get past the aspersion or whatever, you have the Kyrie, then you have the Gloria, then you have the epistle reading, then the gospel, then the homily. So it is the same basic outline. And then you're like, oh, okay, well, I know where that is. And then it's easy to find it in the book or whatever. I mean, I've gotten to the point now, I've been going to, excuse me, I'm sorry, my voice is a little hoarse. I've been fighting that for a couple of weeks now. But I've gotten to where I can respond without the book, but I've been going for 3 years too. So you're not going to, but for a long time, where am I supposed to be? What am I supposed to, but I didn't care because it was so much more, it was something I looked forward to. Yeah. And I still look forward to it. When I was going to the Novus Ordo, it was something I had to do. Going to the TLM is something I want to do. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Well said. Yeah. Well said, Steve. I liked how you both said. I would say what Garret was saying too. It seems to me to be an online thing because the Catholics that I meet at TLMs are top of the line Catholics. They are the most welcoming, God fearing, like down to earth people. You would think they're snooty and uppity by how they dress, but no, these are like wonderful, wonderful people. The priests are awesome, and as Steve said, I'm in that phase right now. The first couple of weeks, you are lost, but I find it's entertaining and engaging to learn. Like I'm learning my faith, you know what I mean? And it's nice because I'm like, this is what my father did. It's no different. So I got the missal and I'm slowly learning along, but it's kind of like interesting. As Steve said, you're like, oh, I know this part of the Novus Ordo. They're doing the Kyrie or they're doing the Agnus Day.
Right. Or the Creed, or the Our Father,
But it is.
So yeah,
it's enriching. But the thing that I find, could we touch on the altar servers? Touch on how your altar is, but your local churches, or just your opinions on altar servers? Because I went to the TL, they are upwards of, they're upwards.
Oh, we lost David.
Hello, David.
Oh, I'm here. I'm still
there
here.
you go. All right, yep. You freezed on us there for a minute. Oop.
Sorry. Were
So
you
what were
speaking,
you
Steve,
saying?
or I was going to
No, you were talking about altar servers.
Oh, I froze. Okay, I thought. Sorry. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. So, could we touch on the altar servers? Novus Ordos. My father taught me you wear black shoes. We'd go to Payless, and I see Nike. I see basketball shoes. I see translucent oranges up there, and that's something that kind of just irks me. And then you go to a TLM, and they're all boys. They're dressed appropriately. They're all doing the appropriate gestures. They all have a role to do. They're learning.
Yeah, this is
it
one of
just
my
helped-
favorite subjects, man, because my son is an altar server at our parish. And the thing that, where'd he go?
Seems to me that it's great for the boys and it's nice girls. You have all these altar servers, and then the girls in the pew, and that's how you match and grow beautiful families.
Yeah, well, you know, my son is an altar server, and I'm not a great test case for what altar servers should be like, because our parish is uniquely reverent. We've been to some other places and seen some other things. Our priest, Father Albert, I love him to pieces, man. He is the kind of priest that once he's consecrated the host, these two fingers will not untouch, and he'll do everything
Amen.
with this, you know. Yeah. And he runs the altar servers exactly the same way. They are up there. They are reverent. And one of the things that's unique about our parish is we have this almost like, I don't know, special forces group of altar servers that are high school boys, and you have to be invited to be a part of it. So if you want to be in Monastery, you have to be invited, and you're invited because you serve often. When you serve well, you're reverent. You're not up there picking your nose. You dress right. And so like you see mass on Sundays, man, the altar servers are dressed to the nines. My son actually got a little bit of trouble with some of the high school boys because he called a guy out for wearing hey dudes. He was like, the sign says you have to wear dress shoes.
Your son did?
Yeah, my son did. Yeah, he got himself a little bit in trouble. But I mean, black shoes or brown shoes, dress pants. And I mean, like, the guys are up there, and the altar servers run the mass. The priest is there to do what the priest does, but the boys run the mass, man. And it's really, really neat, because these boys, you can see it. They get trained up to be leaders in the church, whether they go on to be laymen who serve the church in some way, or they go into the priesthood or the military, whatever it is, these boys get trained up, and you can see the way they walk around the parish. There's a little bit of something different in them. But at the same time, I've been to other parishes, and, you know, I get to see it through my son's eyes, because he'll lean back and be like, Dad, why are they doing that? That's weird. Like, we don't do that. And she did that. And why are they doing it? And I don't know. And he'll critique the whole thing.
Hey, he's paying attention. He's paying attention.
And that's because he wants to be one of these high class servers. Like, he wants to be in the group. And so I'm his dad, so I think it was him. But before my son became an altar server, only the Monastery boys kneel during the consecration and then the receiving of the body and blood of Christ. So as everybody's filing through and receiving Christ, the Monastery boys kneel on the tile the whole time. But the younger boys didn't. But then my son comes along, and again, maybe I'm just dad and I'm being dad right now, and that's cool. But my son comes along and he's like, I want to be what those guys are doing. I want to be them. So I'm going to kneel. And he started kneeling, and now everybody kneels. Everybody kneels all the time. Doesn't matter what age you are. Doesn't matter if you're Monastery or not. Everybody kneels. You kneel while people receive Christ. And it's cool. It's awesome. You
You got a little saint on your hand, Garret, huh?
I love that dude so much. I tell him all the time that he is going to be an infinitely better man than I am when he's grown. That's my goal, a better dude than I ever was.
Well, one thing I would say about the altar servers or altar
So you're
boys,
saying that-
they wrote. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Okay. I was going to say.
No, I'll go after you. Go ahead.
Okay, real quick, just that the whole point to the altar server is for them to see if they want to be a priest. That's what it's always been. So that right there shows that girls surely shouldn't be doing it, in my opinion. That doesn't mean that they're not capable of doing it. Obviously they are, but I just don't think that it's appropriate, because then boys don't want to do it for whatever reason. I mean, you see that in the Novus Ordo. It's what I've seen. It almost seems like there's always more girls than boys, maybe two girls, one boy or something like that. But then you go to the TLM, like you said, there's 10 of them out there, and they're not just, holding the book or bringing this or bringing that. They're very trained, as you said, and it's always amazed me. They'll just be standing there, and then all of a sudden they'll just go like this and switch, and just, it's almost like watching the changing of the guard, because they're very disciplined, and there's a very rubric way that it has to be done. So, yeah. Go ahead, David. I'm sorry.
Yeah, and I find that beautiful. I find it beautiful, and I think that young men need that structure, discipline,
Right.
And I love how Garret said his son he's a young son sees that, and he's like, I want to do that. So it helps him aspire to be an altar server. And I couldn't agree with you more, Steve. I know it can be a contentious topic. I don't see how it's much debated, but I agree with you, because I grew up and I did altar serving and stuff. And if there's girls involved, it definitely changes the atmosphere, because when you're a young boy, you have crushes on girls, and you just whereas if it's more of a boys club, you're gonna get like the Manu stay, as Garret was saying. So yes, I do agree, and that's one of the things that I think the TLM has the upper hand on, is the gender roles. The men are on the altar doing the men thing, and the girls are in the pew, usually humbled. A lot of them veil, and then the men learn from the priests, and the mature men how to be men, and the women learn to be ladies. But whereas in the Novus Ordo, they kind of meshed it a little bit more, and I feel like that's a little bit more like society. Whereas we should be, we're not of this world. We're Christ children and stuff. And I feel like that would help Catholics be more noticeably not of the world, instead of trying to have things of the world. We should be more sacred, bring back sacred things.
Well, but if you look, it also started with the church. They started it almost first, and the world kind of followed. And so to me, and I've heard Father Ripperger say this, that as the church goes, the world goes too. So the church relaxed in the early 60s. Then by the late 60s, early 70s, so did the world, and the world's always going to be worse than the church. So if the church were to move towards that more, then that would bring the world up. That's what I think.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Well, and
I agree. What about you, Garret?
Well, the thing I like about just the simplicity of altar serving for boys specifically, and again, I know I talk about my son a lot. I love that kid to pieces.
That's fine.
But my dude cannot be still. He is energy and life and just movement and noise.
I love it. Yeah.
He plays the trumpet. He's making sounds. He's just all the time. But the minute he walks into mass and he's got the crucifix and he's on the altar, it is game on. And he says all the time, Dad, I can't be still. I'm like, no, incorrect, sir. For an hour and a half, you didn't even blink. I know you can be still. It's like, but you watch that boys, man, they take all that energy and shape it into right action and learned constraint. Like my son knows how to control his energy, because every Sunday he has to sit there, and a lot of times he likes to go for cruciverse. So he sits right next to the priest. And I'm like, bro, you can't play around. Father Albert will knock you out, you better be on it. But it's great for boys because they learn, and I'm sure we'll get into this later, but they learn that masculine requirement of controlled energy.
Mhm.
You have to be able to take all of that masculinity and channel it. And altar serving for boys is just an epic way to do that.
But I think that it's more structured for that in the TLM than in the Novus Ordo by far.
Yeah, I would absolutely agree with that. 100%. I think. Well, I mean, it's the order of best and worst. It would the worst option is to not serve at the altar
Right.
in anything. The next best would be at a Novus Ordo mass. That's decent. The next best would be at a high reverent Novus Ordo where it's done well, and then of course the best would be at an Eastern Rite or a TLM. Yeah. I mean, all of that said, yes, I agree. Sorry.
Yeah,
You're fine. You're fine, man.
yeah, no, I think that's great points. And the whole point of, I love how you guys were saying what we're supposed to get at church as men and women, that would flow out into society. And as you both said, if the church goes, the world will naturally be better, because the more God-fearing Catholics who are out there correcting each other, correcting bad behavior, there's so much dark and bad behavior that the more light and goodness. But I like how you said your son, it's just the masculine structure. I agree with Steve that they would get that more at the TLM. So I guess what I'm trying to say is, we all seem to say it, is the reverence and taking God serious, fearing him. And it's easier to do that at a TLM or Byzantine, right? Because as what you said, I love that, Garret, is your son took the initiative and other people followed. So I would just urge us all to take the initiative like Garrett's son, because if there's a parishioner in every church who's going over him, I hear people who they don't want to nail to receive because I think that was you, Garret. You're one of those examples who you didn't want to be the only one. Yeah. But so the more that people have that zeal and the fervor to, because I know the feeling. It's if you're the only parishioner, but if there's more people like you and your son, even in the Novus Ordos, making them more reverent, or searching out more reverent TLMs, that would just help people like your son. Because maybe I feel like your son reminds me of me. I don't know your son, but just his love for the Lord. And when I grew up in a Novus Ordo, I would ask those questions like your son, and I would get I'll never forget it, seeing an old couple receive on the tongue after they were drilling it into us. You put your right hand, it's so important how you receive, right? And then I see a old lady and her husband receive it on tongue, and I ask them, and they're like, "Oh, don't worry about that. We don't do that anymore." But if you're on fire for the Lord and you're like, "This is real. God is God. I want to honor and worship God," and you have people who are so willy-nilly about it, then that kind of just takes your as your faith. So I think if we have more zealots and just people like your son Steve out here, it would be good for the church. And if more people stood on their faith, like you both, just understand. Go ahead.
No, it's just, I mean, you go to a mass and you see an 85-year-old guy kneel and receive. It's like, oh, that guy believes what he says.
Yeah,
he thinks this is something special.
Amen.
But I'm also one of the opinion that when the church stops kneeling and receiving on the tongue as a universal practice, that's when the belief in the real presence started to wane. I think there's a correlation, for to say, well, a priest can handle this because his hands are consecrated, but you can't because you're not. I mean, that to me is why. Well, because it's the body and blood of Christ. Okay, versus, everybody just handing it out here and there and everything. That's a piece of bread. That says this is a piece of bread.
Right. Well, even the practicality of did you see all the things that he did in order to make his hands prepared to touch Christ? Did you do that before you walked in?
Amen.
No. And you probably picked your nose and scratch, no. And you want to, it, but that's a whole, well, now, as somebody who is Eastern in heart, and I have a deep love, for me, the Divine Liturgy is it. I love the Latin Mass, but man, if I had to choose, like tomorrow I'm going to Mass, I'd go to Divine Liturgy just because that's where my heart is. Not that it's better or anything, but in the East, there isn't any kneeling, but that's more of a practicality thing because in the East, you receive both species at the same time because the priest will take the body and dip it in the blood. And so, like, if you kneel, there's this whole thing that gravity, and you might miss the mouth. But in the East, there is no hand. You do not receive in the hand ever. And there's no, like if you show up to a divine liturgy and you think you're going to receive in the hand, you'll be sorely disappointed because the priest won't give it to you.
Yeah.
You will receive on the tongue because that's
those are all great points. And well, I was just going to say, I love the no nonsense. I grew up in a world where you didn't have the choices. This is what the church taught. This is what the church did. But I did notice lately, it seems to be coming to an end. People are getting better catechized. But the last year, there was do you receive on the mouth or the hand? And it's a debate. Women, do you veil? Do you not veil? And it was a debate. And a lot of people were like, well, God didn't put this on my heart. But the more people like me and Garret, who once you understand why the different, so it's just understanding. But I feel like more people should just promote the understand the better off. Your son, since you'd like to talk about him, let's keep it going, Garret. How can not how can we, but the whole fact of going to TLM and it making. Well, I think your son should be a good example for all of us. It's he doesn't get that at the Novus Ordo. Yeah, there's another level of awe. Is that fair to say?
I think it is harder for my kids when we go to the Latin Mass because they don't understand the language. That for me is the one place where the Latin Mass is a place where I still kind of wrestle. Not that I think we ought to change from the Latin to the English. It's just, well, and I'm a former missionary, so I'm always like, whatever gets people in church. If we need to do the English so that people are there, okay, praise God. So for me, the one place that my kids do wrestle is because it's not in English. It's harder for them to file in and just kind of participate. But my son has been invited the last 2 times because we don't have a traditional Latin Mass in our area that meets regularly, but at our parish, we do, I think it's like once every couple of months. We'll do a Latin Mass on a Thursday or whatever the thing is, because that's what's allowed in our diocese. And the last couple of times my son's been invited to serve as an altar server because he served so well in the Novus Ordo. And I've noticed his level of reverence is higher at the Latin Mass. It was also really neat because the last time he got invited to be part of the torches. So he had to kneel on the tile steps for what felt like an hour. And I was really impressed with his ability to hang there. But I could tell he was more reverent as an altar server. And you could tell it was like the Latin Mass was another level for him. It's like, no, this is more serious.
Well, if I may, so those actions that he's doing, holding the candle, kneeling for an hour, not only the altar servers, but all Catholics, when you go to the Divine Liturgy or the TLM, there's more, the actions have meanings. Like they still do that, Steve, they do that kiss thing. So the actions have so much importance. And like you said, could either of you touch on the value of, like, your son just going to TLM and holding that thing and sitting there for what feels like an hour, but the underlying values that men and women receive from being able to sit still, understanding they have accountability and are being relied on by the congregation and stuff. There's something too that makes them better, builds character, it makes them better members of society, and like kind of helps them grow up and be mature quicker, as opposed to just like following mom and dad to church and being geeks in the pew.
I'd say it would certainly instill a lot more discipline in them. That would be what my thing. I don't have a reference to altar serving. I wasn't raised Catholic, and my oldest children came from another marriage, so they didn't, they went to Catholic school, but they didn't always go to church with us, and they never served at the church we went to. None of my children ever wanted to for whatever reason. I don't know why, but so I just don't have that as a reference the way Gareth does. So, but I would imagine they would instill a lot more discipline in them.
Oh yeah, I mean, I see it in my daughter right now. When we came into the church, so we're converts. When we came into the church, my daughter was young enough that it was like, really didn't matter. It's kind of like whatever, you're kneeling, you're not kneeling, you're 4, I don't care, you're here. Praise God. But now, she'll it's nice because there are ways in which I'm helping her to form that willingness to do the things that are hard when you don't feel like it. She's tired, I don't want to kneel. And I'm like, if you're too tired to kneel for Jesus, you're too tired to play when we get home. You're going to take a nap. Oh, I don't want to take a nap. Boom. She's it's like, because, and we talk, and that's the fun part too. It's like, you get to talk about, these are the reasons we do this. Why do we kneel before we enter our pew? What does the red candle mean? Do we kneel if there isn't a red candle? Like all of those things, like at Easter time. And it's really unique because that's one of the great truths that we don't talk enough about in Catholicism, is the physical things that we're doing are not just physical things. Like, they are occurring spiritually within our soul. Like, we're kneeling to show deference to the King who is on his throne.
Right.
And just going back to like what we were talking about right before the show, Steve, it's like, in a monarchy, there would be zero question. You kneel.
Yeah. Oh, period. Yeah.
Right? And now it's like, well, I'm American, so I don't really kneel. Like, no, man, kneel, dude. Like, Christ is present. Like, come on. But it's, I think it's what a lot of things that you said, Steve. It's, people have lost the grasp of the reality of what, like, no, that's Christ present there. Now we can get into the metaphysics of all that, but like, Christ is there, man. Like, what you're doing is in helping to infuse your soul in that reality.
Right.
Yeah.
And from experience TLM, it carries out into the week, because for the community that I'm attending, Sunday is like a whole event. Some Novus Ordos I go to, it's 45 minutes to an hour. People show up right before Mass. They leave right after they receive the Eucharist. TLM, people are there an hour before waiting in the confession line. They're there an hour after waiting in the confession line. They're hanging out. They got a playground outside. There's 25 families. All the moms and dads are hanging. The kids are playing on the swings. It's the community that I've never experienced. But church ends up being a 3-4 hour event just at the church. And then that just, you're all dressed up, so you continue the day, and that carries into your week. Now you got to go buy something to learn these new divine liturgies or these masses, or you're googling what are all these actions that we're doing that are new to me. So and as far as keeping Jesus on our mind 24/7, I find it helps, and it just builds character. Emphasize that enough. It makes men and it makes women.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, and I think it definitely at least with the
blend.
Well, yeah. No, I was going to say definitely. There's definite general roles, because the one I go to,
you going?
Yeah, there's not. I don't think it's an odd thing if a woman shows up in pants. It's pretty odd. Like one thing that I do on Father's Day and around that time is I make of course, all my children are adults now. And I say, well, you're going to go to Latin Mass with me. That's all I want you to do. And so when my son went, his wife, she's kind of a liberal girl. And I said, well, you might want to veil and wear a dress. She's like, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that. Okay, fine. And then she comes up to me at like halfway through. Was I supposed to get a veil? I'm like, well, you can. There's some out there. So she felt way out of place because she was literally the only one without a veil. But yeah, I mean, it definitely shows gender roles with the way we dress and women veiling. There's no ambiguity there. And I found, as far as dressing up for the Latin Mass, I found that it's not that much harder to put on nice clothes as it is to put this on. It doesn't take any more time, really, other than tying a tie. And you know, if you want to wear a tie, you don't have to, but I typically try to anyway. But for me, whenever I started going to, one of the things that drew me to the Catholic Church back when I was in my 20s was the fact that I could just go casual. I liked that. And as I get older, I don't like it. I like the more reverence and dressing up, because that's showing respect for God and everything. So
yeah, it feels weird, really weird.
Yeah,
underdressed.
Yeah, like I said, for me, if I go to a Novus Ordo after I've been going to the TLM for a long time, and I do sometimes, especially now because my dad wants to go, and he's 80 years old and he can't go by himself, so I have to take him. And he doesn't want to go to Latin Mass, so he wants to go to the Novus Ordo, so we go there. And yeah, I've noticed, and it just feels a lot different, because I will even I won't dress up as much as I do when I go to the Latin. I don't like wear a suit and tie and all that, but I'll dress up a little bit.
Because you'll be out of place, Steve.
Exactly. I'll be the weird guy that goes up and kneels. Dressed up and kneeling for communion.
Well, I do. Okay, so I do want to be the voice for the Novus Ordos out there that are doing it well.
There are some.
They are. You know, and I've been to, and so we have, I think, 4 masses between Saturday night and Sunday night. And if you show up to the 8:30 mass and you're not in a dress and you're not in a veil, you are going to
really at a Novus Ordo.
Really,
at a Novus Ordo. Yeah,
I love that.
And that's because that's the more traditional Latin crowd. That's where most of them are. Now, are you going to see a bunch of college kids because it's a college town and they're poorly dressed, whatever? Sure. You're going to see the girl in her soccer outfit because she's going to leave after receiving the Eucharist to go play. Okay, fine. But like 8:30 is high class. And then the other masses, you know, there's kind of a mix. It's a grab bag of different people. So there are, I know, like we may sound like we're kind of crapping on the Novus Ordo, and there's some validity to that, because there are some really bad Novus Ordos out there, and my heart hurts for people that's their only option. However, there are, and I'm curious, like I would love to hear what everybody else thinks about the direction that we as the church are going, and like what your hopes and dreams are for that, because I know ultimately we would all love to see the Latin Mass be the form, period. That's all that's available. And I 100% understand that. Well, except for like Byzantine and, you know, the other rites that are allowed. However, I really have what I would love to see in the church is we get to a place where priests no longer fear doing the Latin Mass as the norm. So if you're a priest and you want to do the Latin Mass, your bishop has given you full permission, do the Latin Mass whenever you want to. I would love to see that happen. I would also love to see the church get back to a place where the Novus Ordo doesn't go away, because I think if we get rid of the Novus Ordo, we do to people now what happened to people in the 60s, where it was just this is all I know, and you've taken it from me. And I think there are Novus Ordo Catholics out there that would feel that way. So like, trying to advocate for them. I would love to see the church get back to a place where it is the Latin Mass, the priest is ad orientem, we bring the altar rails back, we bring the scola back, get rid of the 1970s
belt banners.
Yes, and all of that nonsense. and you know, and the Mass is in the vernacular. So it's in English, and parts of it are in Latin, or there's this great, beautiful combination. I don't know what that looks like, but I think there's this place that we could get to where we take all of the really important, really good things of the Latin Mass, and we do it in such a way that the Novus Ordo crowd might actually feel inclined to get on board. Does that make sense? Like I would love to see the church move in that direction, where the Latin Mass is free and available and nobody fears punishment. Because like I know my priest for a long time was really afraid to do the Latin Mass because he was afraid his bishop was going to crack down on him.
And see, that's ridiculous. But yeah, I think Simone Pontificum tried that. Pope Benedict XVI tried that, and I think that would have been almost the golden age of the Latin Mass post Vatican II would be that time until Traditionis Custodes came out. But we don't, I personally believe that if 100 years from now, that we will be more back to either even before the 1962 missal, because there's some liturgy, Latin Mass guys that say that there's problems with that even too. Because I mean, one thing with the Novus Ordo that that you're talking about the reverence, the ad orientem, and all that stuff, and that's great, and that would bring out a lot more reverence for people. But there's also some issues with the way it was written.
Yeah, there's
the offertory from showing that this is a sacrifice to, well, thank you God for this bread, just almost like a meal. So there's some things in there that need to be fixed, in my opinion.
Yeah,
and I think they will be. I do, because I don't think God's going to allow clown masses forever, and he didn't. And the things are a lot more reverent now than they were back in the 70s, even in the 90s. Whenever I was there, the Novus Ordo, they've brought a lot of the parishes have brought back a lot of the more reverent stuff. Like, for instance, back in the 90s where I'm at, they had removed the tabernacle from the church everywhere, and they brought that back in most of the churches. Now it's up front with the priest now. Wow. And so that's a big change that I think is great.
Yeah,
and a lot of them are bringing back the bells at consecration. And to me that right there just strikes reverence.
Wait, hold on. Are there places where they don't do the bells at consecration?
Where I live, almost all of them do not do the bells, and they didn't everywhere.
Mine's depending on where you go. Mine's dependent on the priest. The incense as well. Some incense every mass, some 50-50, some don't use any incense.
Whenever I converted, none of them did. I never heard it until I went to Latin Mass.
See, with bells is all I know.
Yeah, okay.
Because every mass is with bells.
My father used to tell me to show up with bells on. So to answer your question, Garret, I'm in your boat. A properly high Novus Ordo, I'm not necessarily I'm not a snoot about it. I'm with you though. I would prefer majority TLMs. But I don't see I know the issues with the Vatican II, but I think it'll be more TLM in 100 years, like you were both saying, but I don't think the Novus Ordo will ever be done. So along your lines, like hopefully the Novus Ordo will get more upscale, but it will still be, hopefully they switch, I guess is how I would look at it. Yeah. TLM's the majority, and then the Novus Ordos have to be worried about their bishops cracking out, but more so flipping the script.
Yeah. And see, and that may be why one of the reasons I'm so
one thing that I was thinking about when you guys were talking about ad orientem and stuff is the importance of priests. Oh, we got to say something.
I was just going to say that may be one of the reasons why I'm a little cynical towards the Novus Ordos, because what I knew of was almost basically a Methodist, service or something like that. But I've learned more as I've got my channel and people from like Garret, and no, there are a lot more reverent Novus Ordos out there, and I never really saw that. So, but it is coming more and more now.
Oh man, if we have a high mass, we got incense. I mean, if it's a solemnity, we go all out.
No,
Yeah, you was gonna say something?
Go ahead, David.
Yeah, so maybe that's why you're a little more understanding. Maybe that's why you're a little more understanding too, because you only see. If I only see Novus Ordos like that, I really wouldn't even be promoting so much. Maybe I would. Yeah. But what I would say is the importance of priests. So in the divine liturgy and in the TLM, the role of the priest, as you said, to offer up the sacrifice, is so noticeable. And at a Novus Ordo, he's kind of just sitting in the chair waiting to do the consecration, but the lectors are reading and everything else is the altar boys are doing this, and it's almost just like the priest is there, and it really diminishes his role in my estimation, which I think is why a lot of people who don't know any better, they don't. have the priest in the priestly role. He's just kind of like a well-dressed clergy he's a grown-up guy who does the but at a divine liturgy, the priest, he's at the end of the procession. They're all kissing his ring. There's marked, oh, this guy's doing something for us, as you were saying. Do either of you have to touch on that?
Well, and I think with the divine liturgy and the TLM, that is really understood that this guy is there advocating to God for us, and that's lost. At least what I've experienced in the Novus Ordo, it's lost in the Novus Ordo.
Yeah. Well, I would definitely. I mean, again, my parish is the exception to the rule, but there's a marked difference in the divine liturgy. I mean, the priest is just active the whole start to finish. I mean, even the little things like, we had this priest come in from Nashville. I love him to pieces. He's a great guy. And he came in and he did this thing. It was my first divine liturgy, so everything's already like over the top for me. And he did this thing where when the little kids would come up to receive, and I mean like little bitties, like 4 and 5.
Yeah, because they become in the church when they're baptized as a baby, right?
Correct. So when you receive baptism, and then I can't remember if it's at baptism. I don't think it's at baptism, but it's really soon after you receive first Eucharist, confirmation,
chrismation, I believe.
Yeah, all at the same time. Yeah. And so these little bitties are like 4 and 5 and they're coming up. And, for an adult, when you go up to receive, the priest will say something like, the servant of God, Garret, receives, and he says what he basically tells you what you're receiving. It's beautiful. Every single person. And I mean, there were 20, 30 of us, and he just on repeat, the servant of God, the servant of God. Well, these little kids came up, and he looked down at the little girl and he said, oh, Sophia, come and taste how good the Lord is. I was like, oh, man, come on. Like, like you just, it brings tears to my eyes. I mean, can you imagine like growing up and every Sunday taste and see how good the Lord is? Like,
yeah.
Come on. And, but there is, I mean, there in the Latin Mass and in the Divine Liturgy, there is a marked distinction that this person has a very specific role, and our job as lay people is to come behind him and support through prayer and through action the role that he is playing for us, that priestly role. And it just, you feel that more. Not that it's not there in the Novus Ordo. I mean, I'm sure in some it feels very much like what you were describing, David, but it just does. It's not the same. At a divine liturgy and a Latin Mass, man, the priest is working. You know what I mean? Like he is working for you, and it's just beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah, well, the TLM priests, they're doing this so many times. Repeat, as you said, on repeat. One thing that I find more beautiful at a divine liturgy in TLM is the congregation. We're being fed as opposed to like taken. Like at a Novus Ordo, you walk up and you're like, "Give me my," Whereas at you're literally like, it's almost like a trough, if you will, when the altar rail. Everyone's sitting there just waiting for their portion.
So where are you at, Gareth? Where you're in Tennessee?
And
I wish I was in Tennessee. Tennessee's awesome.
I think that's a difference. We're being given.
Whoop.
Yeah, you keep cutting out quite a bit, David. You there?
Oh, he froze on us again.
Yeah.
No, I'm in Central Texas.
Can you hear me now?
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, there he is. He's
okay.
back.
Sorry. Sorry about that.
No,
That's
you're
okay.
okay.
I didn't know I was doing that to you guys. So I guess we can close up here. We can close up with a question or two. Thanks for dealing with me. I did just want to ask you guys like 2 or 3 questions.
But I wanted to address what you're talking about there, David, because you hit on one of the things that in fact, I think I put a video out about this on my channel like 2-3 weeks ago about why receiving in the hand is so detrimental for the soul. Because
great video, by the way.
Thank you. And it really was spur. I had a student. I was a high school student. She was one of my kids, and asked me to be her confirmation sponsor. And we were on our way to an art contest. And she found, we were talking about Catholic things, and she said, "Well, I don't see why the big deal is about receiving the hand." And I walked her through it, and I was like, "This is why I receive on the tongue. I'm not telling you need to, but this is why I do it. This is why I love it, because God created an order to things, and when we come in and say, 'No, put it in my hand,' we're telling God, 'Your order doesn't work for me. I will feed myself. I am in charge. I would like to. I'll take care of it.'" And that's my one, like, if I could just wave a wand right now, and if I could only change one thing, it would be receiving the hand. You shouldn't. There's no way.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Because you have no authority to do so. Now, that said, the church has said that yes, we should be able to. So I can't say that it's like sinful or wrong or whatever, but it's just bad practice. It's not good for the soul.
It's not a good idea. It's allowed. It's actually I think the law of the church still is to receive on the tongue.
Yeah.
But it's an indult, or I can't remember the exact word, but it's
Yeah, the indult. Yeah.
An indult, yeah. It's a permission that could be yanked or whatever. But
And that
they're not going to.
And that goes to what Garret was saying. They they allow me an indult, I'm going to take it. It's very kind of prideful and the opposite of humble.
Yeah, it's not good, man.
No.
Good.
And then just a few questions. Am I here? You guys hear me?
You're good. Yep.
Did I break up again? Oh, okay.
No, you're good.
What makes a man in your estimation? I'd like to help build. What would you guys say? What makes a man in your estimation? It's not a trick question. Just as a man.
Yeah. Well, it's a good question because today it's one that, I listen to a lot of Father Ripperger, and he does a lot of what's wrong with men today. The femininity, which means that we all do it. To certain degrees, but seek pleasure and avoid responsibility. And to me, that's what a man is. And if my father taught me anything, it was to get up, go to work hard, and take care of your family.
Yep.
But that's both. That should be in both the temporal world, as far as the material world. But you're also a man as the head of the household for the spiritual aspects of things too. So he needs to lead his family down that road as well.
Yeah, that's so good, Steve. I think of this movie may be a little contentious among Catholics because I used to love this movie, and then I became Catholic and was like, oh, there's some problems here. But the movie Kingdom of Heaven with Orlando Bloom.
Oh yeah.
Okay, now all of the problems aside, that's a phenomenal movie. It is when you look at it from a masculine perspective. But there's a scene in that movie where Balian points at a sign and he says, "What man is a man who doesn't make the world better?" And if I were going to make like a bumper sticker for manhood, that make the world better.
Yeah.
A man makes the world better. That usually requires sacrifice, responsibility, and capability.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of the things that raising a boy I've become very aware of. Like there is, we say it in our house, like you eat your frogs first and then you go eat your cake, like you get the work done. You do the work, go do the work, and then you can have all the fun.
Right.
And I love it. Like he's got to mow the yard tomorrow. He's like, "Dad, how early can I get started?" Because it's
hot.
But then the other thing, and this is where I think Jordan Peterson has really helped the masculine space, is a man ought to be dangerous. And I mean that in like the literal, like if you break into my house, you will not walk out.
That's right.
Right now, the caveat to that is that should be a danger that is held in check. Right. And that's what Peterson talks about all the time. And I remember I was talking to an older gentleman, and we were talking about guns and, home defense and stuff. And I was telling him about the guns I have, and because I'm in Texas, and if you live in Texas and have guns, like, what are you doing? But, I asked him, basically like, if somebody broke in your house, would you shoot them? And he said, yeah, I don't know if I could. And my thought was like, man, that's kind of sad for your family, because now they don't really know if they're safe or not.
Yeah.
You know, like they can't, there's a level of rest that can't happen because we don't know if dad's going to hold the ground. You know, like my kids know, they know exactly where my gun is. They know that I sleep with 2 axes. Yes, I mean that. 2 of them, axes, next to my bed with a gun. Like, if you come into
this too, one in each hand.
I wish, man. No, I move too much. I move too much. I'd hit my wife with one of them.
Yeah.
And be sadly single. No, I mean, you know, but but the flip side of that is, like, my wife and I, we had a conversation when we brought the first gun into the house. It was, well, are we no longer relying on God to protect the home? And I said, no, it's even more so now. Like, I need God to protect my home, because if I have to protect my home, one, that person's going to die.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe me too. But if nothing else, that's going to mess me. Like, that's going to mess me up if I have to defend my house. So I need God to defend my house, because I don't want to walk down. I don't want to hurt anybody.
No.
I don't want to, like, take somebody out. I'm not looking forward to drawing a gun on somebody, but at the same time, my kids sleep really well at night, because they know there's zero question. If you come into my house with bad intentions, you don't walk out. And that's part and parcel of being a man.
Oh, yeah.
That is 100%. You need to the best of your ability. Everybody's got different abilities.
Could I double down on that?
Yeah.
So there's a good amount of Christian men who would disagree with us, and I love how all 3 of us were instantly like, "Yep, that's what a man is," because they take the passive and turn the other cheek, and all those kinds of things, and they're like, "No, Jesus was a God of peace and tells us to turn the other cheek." So as you were saying, you posed them, and like a man comes into your house, and so how could you just reiterate to the men that, like, a man should have his sword ready to wield, but he'll yield it only when needing to use the sword is when he uses it. But sometimes you have to use the sword. There's Christian men who are like, "No, we're a peace loving, turn the other cheek kind of."
No, okay, so
this is
go ahead, Steve. No, go ahead, Steve.
I was going to say, have you heard of the Crusades? I mean, that's a new deal. I mean, the Christians have never really felt that way until more recently.
Yes, that's a modern okay, but here's the thing about that. I can't remember which saint. There was it was one of the Crusades. There was, and they were in conflict, and a Mohammedan said to this saint, "Your God teaches peace and turn the other cheek and do all these things. How on earth can you be at war? How can you kill other people if your God is supposed to be a God of peace and love and turn the other cheek?" It's all the modern stuff that we're dealing with. And the saint said to him, "The greatest commandment is to love God and love your neighbor. And to let you enslave them or kill them or take from them is not loving. Therefore, the greatest commandment for me is to protect them against you."
Mm-hmm.
Done.
Yeah.
That's how you answer the modern question. If there are modern Christian men who think they are not allowed or don't have authority to act violent when violence is needed, they need to rethink that, because the reality is, if you are in charge of a home, if you have a wife and children, and you are unwilling to engage in violence on their behalf, you are not loving. And love is the single greatest commandment. Now, that doesn't mean you look for it. Doesn't mean you get excited about it. I have no desire to harm others. But if you come into my house, I love my kids more than I love you. So you got to go, like, period.
Well, you have a duty to defend your family against a threat.
Right. And that word is so not popular today.
Duty? Yes. Yeah.
Oh, no, you are honor bound, man. God put you in charge of those people. You better do something about all that.
Yeah.
So, no, that's the answer to your question.
I love it.
David. Like,
yeah. No, I love to hear that. And another one. This is more to help the younger men. But I've been hearing of a lot. I know of a few people, and I'm hearing a lot about men's mental health. So I have a view on this. You guys may or may not share it. But I grew up that men had little to no mental health problems because we were taught this code from our fathers, what to expect from the world, how to deal with the world, how to be capable, as you said, Garret. So we know what to expect, and we go in with these expectations. Life's hard, life sucks, we're going to do it anyway. You're going to persevere, all these, you're going to do it honorably, you're going to be loyal to people, all these things. So when you set up with those tools and you have the Catholic faith and church behind you, you're kind of equipped mentally and spiritually to go into this world. But it seems to me there's a lot of like the 25 and younger men, they may not have had the best role models or masculine figures. So they've, walking around this effeminate world, they kind of, oh, I need therapy and I have all, woe is me, I need to talk to somebody. And they're not getting the results that they need. My advice would be to learn the men's unwritten rule book, which Garrett's teaching his son, you guys grew up on, and attend a divine liturgy or a TLM, get a spiritual father, go to confession, get strong-headed, wise men around you to help you with whatever issues you have, and then you'll be good. But do you have any advice for young men who may not have been equipped with the tools we have and are out struggling in the world? How can they get back on track to being a man?
My son, he works with troubled youth up in Kansas City. He just loves doing it. Anyway, when he was here in Springfield, he worked at a homeless shelter for like families, and there was like a 16-year-old kid, and he was going crazy, and he was attacking his mom and all this stuff, and they were calling the cops and everything. And he sat him down and he said, "Dude, what's wrong? Why are you acting like this?" And he goes, "I don't want to be here. My life sucks." And he goes, "Across the street, there's a Brahms. Go get a job to save up your money, and then you get to decide what you get to do." So that, to me, that's one of the biggest things that I think kids should do. Get a job. Get a job, work. If you're a man, a physical job, you wouldn't believe how much that pumps up your testosterone and all that. And yes, then you need to go to church. But I think part of the problem with today is with today's youth is there's not enough fathers in the home. They're stuck playing video games and on the internet. They don't know how to interact with women because they're getting that side from the internet, and then the world tells them that they're the root of all evil in the world. So for me, the advice I would get: work. There's a dignity in work and a self-worth that comes from work. That would be step number one, and then step number two would be to go to church and get yourself right with God.
Yeah, this is a particularly close topic to my person, as somebody that, most people probably tell you I have mental health issues, but I'm an artist, so kind of part and parcel. I do agree with you though, David. I think men of the 1960s, or I would probably say even better, the 1950s, did not have what we in modern society call mental health issues. They also didn't have the internet. And I think the reason I say that is because modern society has figured out how to hijack the dopaminergic system. And we have created addicts. And I think it's actually the rise in mental health issues among men is twofold. One, we don't have purpose. It goes exactly to what Steve was talking about. We don't have a job that gives us purpose. We don't, and the whole world is telling us we're the problem. So those two things right there, like, what do you do with that? But then you've also got this, like I see it in high school all the time. I haven't seen a young man without a phone in a decade.
Mm-hmm.
When up to 40-year-old men driving can't take their face out of the phone. It's crazy.
Seen an old man without a phone.
yeah. No, really, it's
100%
with the maturity. We have grown men who are acting like 16-year-old high schoolers. Yeah, that's actually a great point. Yeah.
So I have, before the show, even David and I were talking about, this year's been hard. My mental health is not great. And a lot of that was self-inflicted through addictive type things, whether it's video games or cell phones or, even YouTube, YouTube can be.
Oh, yeah.
And because what it does is it shuts down those things in us that promote healthy masculine mentality. Like, I am at my best when I have put in 2 miles running, or when I'm outside throwing the kettlebell around and making myself sore, or doing pull-ups, or mowing the yard, or wrestling with my dog, or whatever the thing is, whatever that physical necessity, physical activity is. And I think the answer is exactly what Steve said. For young guys, if you're a young dude and you hear this and you're struggling with mental health, I think the advice already given is exactly right. Get a job that you can tolerate. Get physically active. Jiu-jitsu, weightlifting, running, cycling, swimming, something hard, something you don't want to do. Get up at 4:30 in the morning and do it.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think even like, Steve said, get right with God. I think like if you're a Catholic, man, confession,
Mm-hmm.
the sacrament of reconciliation, 2 weeks, every 2 weeks, like I went last week and I went again today because there's a point where you do things and you're like, you know what? It sucks to have to tell my priest for the 870th time that I've done the same stupid, sinful thing. I'm done, man. I'm going to replace that bad habit with this good habit. I'm going to bench press 225 pounds because that makes me feel good. And I'm going to stop doing that stupid thing that my priest is now rolling his eyes at because it's the 900th time that I've done it.
Yeah.
And I think there is a real gift in the Catholic Church in reconciliation. And I say that as a convert. It is the secret sauce of Catholicism.
And I will add to that because I was just listening to Father Reedy, or not Father Reedy, he's a priest in my days, Father Ripperger, and he was talking about some study that he heard that before the 1960s, Catholics were like the least group of people to be in mental institutions. Today, that's not the case, but they all agree that the reason is because of confession. And that's one of the things that was lost in the church. They're really trying to bring it back now, and I think that's a good thing. But they're just saying go to confession. They're not telling you really why you need to do it.
Right.
So, but
yeah, I was 5 or 10 minutes early to confession today, and I was the 15th person in line. Like in our area, man, if you want to make it for the sacrament, you better be 30, 45 minutes early.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it's getting a lot better, even where I'm at. It's getting a lot. It used to, when I first started going to regular confession, me, 2 or 3 other guys. And that's another thing I've noticed with the Novus Ordo churches. When I go there, it's guys. Almost all of them are men. I don't know what that is. I don't know what that means, but I've noticed that the majority of people that I see.
Well, Steve, I don't either, but I'm thinking that's kind of why I wanted to have this conversation, because if you're any type of masculine man, you're going to seek a divine liturgy or a TLM, like true reverence. Novus. Right. One thing that I do say, and I don't want to crap on the Novus Ordos, forgive me, Garrett, but I say Novus Ordo is like feminist friendly. So like you can wear a girl can wear like a pantsuit. A girl doesn't have to veil. A girl can be up on the altar. So it's like the feminists love the Novus Ordo. But a feminist wouldn't love a divine liturgy or a TLM, like your liberal daughter-in-law. I don't want to veil. I don't want to do this. So it would clean up. So what I was saying was that if I'm not breaking up, the last question that the last thing I would like to touch on is the old men's unwritten unwritten rule book. A shipper's guy, you would do a kind gesture of the street, and then she would tell your mother how great of a child she was, and your mother would gush with how her son getting praised. Or you would do this, you would help the high school or the baseball team, and then the coach would tell your father, and the payment would be your father takes you out for a steak that night. So like the societal payment was the payment for doing these kind deeds. Like you could help a lady with the groceries up the stairs, she might try to give you some money. No, it was the gesture. And you would be paid, or you go and you impress a guy who has who owns a business, and then he's like, I like that guy's character, I'm going to give him a job. That's the payment. But nowadays, since it's kind of gone by the wayside, the only payment is the inward fact of knowing that you did something that's right and just and for the good of somebody and for God. But I think if we reminded people of what I call is the objective way to be a civil member of society with the subjectivism and moral relativism. It's like, well, don't judge me. You can do this. I prefer to do that. But I was raised, there's a right and there's a wrong way. And then that's why everyone knows who was raised properly, who wasn't. And it seems to me there's a lot of people who aren't like Garret, who are raising little heathens, and they're just like there's teachers saying that, you know, first graders are coming in and they're like, so I think objective, like good members of society would go a long way in reverence and discipline. Would help that. Would you guys agree?
I mean, absolutely. I work in education, and I mean, it's the little things, but I do think it's prompted by the home, right? Like that starts with, your kid did a thing, and you pointed out, like, hey, dude, like you were super encouraging to your sister. Thank you so much. That's awesome. And then that starts to, it starts to feed its way out. Like, one of the things that my daughter does, if somebody it doesn't matter. You're coming to my house. You're coming to my house for dinner. She's going to make you a card. And when you get here, you get an Abigail card. There it is, Or she went to her grandparents.
Oh, you're old school, Garret. I like it.
Oh, you're old school. We make cards, man. And the thing is now is because we've had to put parameters on it of like, no, okay, here are the things you can use. If you want something not this, you need to ask before, because she'll come in and the next thing you know, she's got the glitter and the glue and the markers and everything under the sun, and she's just cut everything to pieces, and it's beautiful and I love it. Or like even my son, he works. So like going to what Steve was talking about, he works for our neighbor. So he's the yard man. Like he goes out every couple of weeks, he mows the yard for the neighbor, and he gets paid and he saves most of that. And then he buys stuff when he wants to buy stuff. And it's super cool. But the other day, because of his hard work, the neighbor bought him a Pokemon card that he was missing.
Oh, wow.
And then in return for that, my son made him a card. And so now it's just this constant back and forth of kindness that's happening in our neighborhood.
See, what you're describing is what my generation, we were all raised that way. But now what you're doing it right, and you're doing a great job.
Amen. Yes.
But you're the exception, but not the rule anymore, unfortunately.
Right. And that's the hard thing. And I really think I'm going to harp on this, and this is my soapbox currently. I really think it's technology. Because what we've done is we've turned kids inward by giving them a thing that makes them self-oriented.
Mm-hmm.
This is what I want. This is my thing. And then you put them in a public situation and they can't handle it because now they've got to navigate all the interpersonal relational things. And it's just me all the time. And they can't navigate that. And so they turn into little terrorists. And that's what we have in public school now. It's just a bunch of little tiny terrors who can't regulate their emotions. Technology, man.
Oh,
it is. That we're on right now, which like I get the irony, but still, my kids don't have phones. We don't do, that's anyways. Yeah. I'm gonna start harping on technology.
No, you're right. You're absolutely right.
No, those were I can't thank you enough. Those answers for the advice on like the last 20 minutes, you guys gave some A1 advice, which kind of proves the point of if you get some good men around you with heads on their shoulders, like say I was having mental health, Garret. You guys just gave amazing advice. So sometimes you just need a man to be like, Steve's was so like basic, go get a job. And it's like, that is such good advice. And sometimes you miss the thing that's right in front of your face. Just a little, get your body moving. Everything was saying exercise. So that's great advice. We should get off the internet more, get into nature, help each other. But I did just want to comment, Garret, that was beautiful how you literally just proved how I was saying it used to be and can be. So wherever you are, don't move, because your Novus Ordo churches seem to be top notch. Your neighbors seem to be like old school and like cordial. So everyone be like Garret and his neighbors. Yeah, it's if so you he must think we're talking Chinese. He's like, what do you mean Novus Ordos and they don't use bells or incense? What do you mean
that blows
your neighbors
my
aren't polite? Yeah.
I can't even. No, oh man. Okay, funniest. I'm going to do this because it's the funniest bell story ever. So we had one priest for a long time, and then we finally got a second priest. And my son does bells sometimes, and he loves it. Well, the new priest, I love him to pieces. He's great, but the new priest, he's like shoot from the hip. So it's like boom, and you know the first bell, right? It's the first bell that kind of initiates consecration. He goes that fast, and so our normal priests, our priest has been here forever. Like you can tell, like here we go. Okay, first bell. This one, it's like boom, first bell. And so like my son, man, I watch him and he's like, he is just his hand is like right on the bell. He's just oh no ring, I got a ring. It's just it cracks me up, man. But no, I can't imagine going somewhere. There's no like, how do you not? Oh, anyways,
I don't like it. But yeah, that was, like I said, the norm in my town until I think when I went with my parents to a church that I used to go to that didn't do the bells, and they were doing the bells. They actually were also singing the Agnus Dei in Latin, which I thought was really cool.
Yeah, we do.
But yeah, Novus Ordo that I'm used to is all English, basically just like I said, it's basically like a Methodist, church service or something like that. Yeah.
No good.
Nope. Not at all.
Yep.
Yeah, well, thanks for joining me. That's kind of why I had this episode, because I was experiencing a lot of those, Steve. And just if it gets low enough, you almost just want to shake these people by the what they call them, stiff neck. St. Paul called them. There's a couple stiff neck parishes around me, so that. But no, you guys were amazing. Thank you for dealing with the little glitch that I have. But also go check out both of their channels, Father's Lion Studio and I Miss Christendom. I do appreciate your guys' time. Like, comment, and subscribe. And everybody have a blessed night. Thank you, gentlemen.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
All right. We still here?
Looks like we're all here.
We still live?
No.
Okay.
I don't think so.
Well, because my little thing at the top's still ticking.
Yeah, it is.
We still live, David?
Hey, we're still.
Are we still live?